Don't worry, everyone, it's back. It's another episode of Monday Movie Pickup. All I remember about this is that it came out a little bit after Shrek. I mean, even as the funniest animated movie since Shrek. It seems like the only good comedies are out nowadays are animated, so it's kind of weird that this came out in, 2004, 2005, and someone really thought it had been 4 years before there was another funny animated movie. Shrek 2 came out in that time. But yeah, all I remember about this movie is that even at the time, it seemed to have really choppy animation. I did some research about it. Apparently the movie was made for $8 million, which for an animated movie is incredibly low. And so it doesn't really surprise me that the animation isn't top-notch. But then again, that was in 2005, so I can only imagine what it looks like today. I'll be doing a Patreon request of this, so stick around for that. Game of Death. I am trying to catch up on more Bruce Lee movies, and these Shout Factory Blu-ray sets actually went out of print because they don't have the rights to release them anymore. These are great sets. They usually have both versions, the American dub and then the Mandarin version, or the the Mandarin Cantonese version of the movie as well. They typically have that for all the different Bruce Lee movies that have been released. This is a cool set. It comes with both movies on separate discs. Usually has on the inverse different artwork, which is always really cool. This time around I kept it as is just because the name of the movie was Game of Death, and they kept that name basically in both countries, because you'll see a lot of the titles change between countries. Like here we have The Big Boss, but in America it was called Fists of Fury. I kind of like to stick to the original title just because you start throwing in the American titles, it starts getting a little confusing, especially since the movie that came out after after Big Boss in China and Hong Kong. Actually, they called it the next one Fists of Fury, not Fists of Fury, but the next one was called Fists of Fury. So then in America they had to call it the Chinese connection, but that's so confusing because then there's the American title for the Big Boss, Fists of Fury, which doesn't refer to the next movie in the franchise or of the Bruce Lee filmography, which was called Fists of Fury, and Anyway, I would say get these Blu-rays while you can because they're going out of print, and I got them for basically the same price they were released as. I'm sure they're going to start going up eventually. Liar Liar. I haven't seen this movie in a long time, but I remember loving it as a child. I've had the VHS for years, and I finally decided I got to get the Blu-ray of this. I was surprised there were some special features on here. A lot of these Universal releases of, older movies haven't been getting the best special features treatment. Nutty Professor, Mrs. Doubtfire, they kind of, Little Rascals, they all went with nothing, but this actually got some stuff, so that was pretty cool. Snowpiercer, which I did do a review of. This is kind of a neat set because it actually came with 2 discs, which is pretty rare nowadays for Blu-ray sets in general, but especially for a movie like this, I wouldn't expect that this would have had 2 discs, but there you go. The movie was pretty cool. You can watch my review of it on YouTube right now. And yeah, Chris Evans, it was cool to see him in a movie that wasn't Captain America. And last but not least, we have Dracula, Prince of Darkness, as I'm trying to catch up on the Hammer horror franchise, which they just announced that Shout Factory will be releasing Scars of Dracula also. So that means that every single Dracula Hammer horror movie will be hitting Blu-ray in one way or another, which a couple years ago seemed impossible. The rights were all over the place. They had the rights to release them in the UK, but every studio, depending on whatever studio owned these movies, would release a set, and then they would go out of print, and then sometimes Hammer would do them themselves, but sometimes it was only in region B, and so it was confusing. But it's cool that they're finally actually getting to work on releasing a lot of these. Dracula especially, I haven't seen as many for Frankenstein, but they're starting to work on that series too. This is the inside, of course. The inside artwork is just the slipcover, if you can tell. The slipcover was it's pretty neat actually. I actually kind of like the slipcover. But was a bigger fan of the other side, which was the original poster for the movie. So pretty neat. Comes with some good special features. Yeah, but that's some Blu-rays I picked up recently. Some more pricey ones. I haven't been buying them as much lately, so that's why you haven't seen an episode in a while. But in the meantime, I'm getting some good stuff.